Hello and welcome to Eavesdropping at the Movies. I'm Mike.
And I'm Jose.
And you've dragged me to see Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw.
Yes, or Hobbs and Shaw, as I like to call
Yeah, so the Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw.
Yes. So
Anyway,
you saying
it's
I drag you to it already doesn't bode very well. How much did you dislike it?
I did not hate it.
Ah.
I had a much better time than I expected to, certainly. I've never seen a Fast and Furious film before.
Right.
Any of them.
I saw the first couple, but then, I really disliked Vin Diesel. And I thought the other guy, the one who died, the blonde...
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker was just so dull, right? So, and I suppose kind of once I do like car chases, and actually I adore action, but it didn't seem to me to be the kinds of car chases that I liked, or indeed the action that I liked, and I just stopped watching them. And to be honest, yesterday I thought, we're going to see Hobbs and Shaw today, so I thought I'd catch up on Fast and Furious 8, and I was reading a book, and actually I just kind of I stopped paying attention to it because it wasn't grabbing my attention enough to pursue it, really. So I'm not a fan of the series.
The series overall, excluding Hobbs and Shaw, so just the first 8 main series, has cost $1 billion to make, and it's made $5.1 billion.
So very successful.
Worldwide. Massively successful.
Yes.
And that's why all the stars, like in this, Helen Mirren's in it. I mean, I don't know who's been in it before, but Helen Mirren, Kevin Hart shows up, Ryan Reynolds shows up. Obviously, the stars are The Rock and
Jason
Statham, and also Vanessa Kirby,
yes,
who's the sister.
Yeah, and actually, they're all wonderful. I love Dwayne Johnson, and he's very warm and appealing and funny in this. And I have a whole theory about Jason Statham. I think it's really quite interesting to me that, well, at one point, I thought he was the biggest action star in the world. That was before Dwayne Johnson really took off, But I still think he's the biggest international star of British descent, right? He specializes in action. I think those, they were expandable films. Expendable. They really set him up as the logical successor to Stallone and Schwarzenegger. Yeah, that was almost kind of built in to those films, and I think he was, and I love those. What are those films with the car? The Transporter films. I love, right?
Luc Besson, right?
Yeah, wonderful. And I think it's interesting that the biggest box office star of British descent is the only one who connotes working classness now. So you have Benedict Cumberbatch and
Daniel Craig. Bond.
Oh, okay. I suppose Daniel Craig.
But he does it as Bond.
He's only a star as Bond,
exactly.
Really. But I'm thinking of Benedict Cumberbatch. What's the other guy who was in the Fantastical Beasts film?
Eddie
Redmayne. Like, they're all Etonian.
None of these are action people.
No, but they're all British stars. I'm talking about,
You're talking generally.
There's something, but those two things are interesting. That the biggest British star is working class, and that the working class star is the only one who does action. Right, so you have all the other guys who all went to Eton, who are doing literary adaptations and, and so on and so forth. I think it's an interest. There's something very interesting there.
Yeah.
You don't sound interested.
No. Well, I think Daniel Craig is an interesting one because he's the only other one I think of who really does action big. I mean, I know we both just said, well, it's Bond. It's it's within its own little box, Bond, but it's still worldwide. Sort of action movie stuff.
No, and I really like Daniel Craig, and I think Daniel Craig also, but Daniel Craig is different because I think Daniel Craig is completely different because, you see, I'm not sure that Daniel Craig is a star outside of Bond, and the thing about Bond is he's not working class.
No, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah. Okay, so whereas Statham has a star persona, that he's got films built around, what he signifies. really. And one of the things he signifies is Britishness, and the other thing he signifies is a kind of, you know, a working classness made good, right? So somebody of a working class origin who has become an expert, you know, in computers, weaponry, or whatever, right? So, you know, somebody highly skilled, highly intelligent, but of a working class background, right? So I think that's just interesting to speculate upon.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's also saying that Taron Egerton's character is all about that in Kingsman.
That's right.
The class thing is
so I was thinking of Taron Egerton as well, except, you know, we'll see how that develops, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not calling him like a huge action star, but it's certainly comparable.
Yeah,
kind of it bridges the gap because it's a Bond parody on the one hand, and it's about this working class kid being kind of taught class.
Yeah,
and taught that class isn't actually kind of the way you speak around that. It's the whole thing in that is it's how you treat people and who you are on the side and all that.
But I think that's interesting in the context of, you know, of all the people in the last 10 years, 5-10 years. All of the people who became stars during the Tory, you know, the last Tory decade, who are actually, you know, who are all public school boys, and not only public school boys, but Etonians. So we talk about the government, but I think it's also worth mentioning this in the arts, because Cumberbatch, Redmayne, Damian Lewis all went to Eton, which is kind of obscene, I think. I mean, I don't have anything against... I love, you know... Well, I don't love... But I have nothing against the actors individually, but that this should be, you know, the case socially and historically is a problem, right? And I think actually that Statham is an interesting counterbalance to all of that, though obviously he became a star before any of these people.
It's funny that you bring up all this kind of stuff around Englishness or Britishness and Jason Statham, because it's something that really occurred to me, not just about him, but about the film in general early on. So the film is about these two. It's a standalone film that it's a sort of spin-off of the Fast and Furious franchise, as I understand it. So it doesn't continue a story from the rest of them, but these are characters that you pick up who have been in the previous film, right? So you've got this Luke Hobbs, which is The Rock's character, Dwayne Johnson, and Thingy Shaw, who is Jason Statham's. And they're both going to have to come together to fight this baddie, basically, who wants to take over the world, wants to re-engineer people, you know, typical baddie stuff. But the film, in a sense, really sidelines The Rock early on. Not sidelines, but he is a separate concern to what most of the film is doing very early on, because the film starts off set in London. The bad guy is English as well, Idris Elba. Yes. You've got this girl who's involved who works for MI6 who's English. That's Vanessa Kirby. She turns out to be Jason Statham's sister. All the action early on is set in London, which is the real scene-setting stuff.
Yes.
Helen Mirren's there as well, the mother.
Who's very good.
And The Rock kind of comes into this. He's kind of put into it by the CIA. And it's not like it's Jason Statham's fight that he's taking part in. It is both their fight early on, but it all starts off in this kind of world of Englishness.
Yes,
which is kind of interesting.
One of the things that I found very interesting is when at the end you see the credits and you see that both Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham are producers, and that actually Dwayne Johnson is part of the Producers Guild of America. Yeah. So he's like an accredited producer, and of course you realize that all of the scenes in Samoa are due to him being the star and the producer. Yeah. And you might argue that all of the scenes and some of the casting might be because Jason Statham is the star and the producer.
Well, there's a whole thing around the film of it's very much a producer's vehicle. You know, I'm the producer, I'm the star. Make me look good. Yeah. But there's a certain amount. There's some stuff that I really didn't like in that respect, like the banter between the two of them. You know, they throw these jabs at each other, which are supposed to be funny. And I think almost all of them fell really flat.
Well,
But then on top of that, right, Jason Statham will land some quip, and The Rock, instead of responding to it with another one, will just laugh in this very American way. Like that, only Americans respond to banter like that, going, "Well, you got a good one in." Yeah, which is what he does. You know, and I really hated that. And it's like The Rock going, "Okay, I have to be nice. I'm likable. Oh, we like it on film."
I don't know. I mean, I did like the chemistry between them very much. I think the way that the banter was written was kind of... what's the word? Like puerile, really. You know, like half of it consisted of dick jokes.
Yeah.
You know, like it was that level, really. Yeah.
Yeah, well, or just kind of extended metaphors that aren't funny.
Yeah.
About, you know, I'm gonna kick you in the ass so hard you'll be puking
Yes.
shoelaces for a
I'll
week.
drag your
you know.
balls through,
Yeah.
you know, ice cubes or whatever.
Boring
I mean, it's just
and not
stupid.
funny, but
Yeah.
there were a few creative ones. There were a couple that landed. It wasn't like they were all dead, and there were so many that a couple had to eventually. But for the most part, you know, I found that very unfunny. You also had these two comedy turns by Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Hart, which
I think he better get out of doing that kind of stuff. That shtick is wearing really thin.
Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
You know, and Kevin Hart was just as
and
bad.
he just talks this blah 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 blah, and nothing funny coming out of Ryan Reynolds' mouth these days.
No, he's doing that nerdy, too smart kind of thing, really. And I just think he should shut up and go back to being a leading man. He's like really handsome. He was really effective. It's what made him a star. And you know, this is good for. You know, I'm glad he had that success with Deadpool. You know, but that's a character, and actually, it's becoming his persona rather than just a character.
I agree.
And it's becoming really annoying. You know,
Though there's an extent to which everyone kind of plays themselves in this, and I think that's what some big star vehicles kind of are. Instead of you playing a character, the character is you. You know, like how The Rock always has his tattoos out.
Yeah.
You know, like any other actor, you have to cover your tattoos up. But with him, every single film, you see a flash of his big shoulder tattoo. It's part of who he is, and it's like saying, "I am so proud of who I am, Samoan." That's what these tattoos represent.
Yes.
You know, which is great. But like, I'm so proud of it that I won't put it away, even to act as a different character.
Anyway, I don't care
have to because I'm The Rock.
I've changed my mind about him because, you know, there's something about the way he looks that disagrees with me. Like, it kind of connotes, you know, too much work, too much effort, too much steroids, right? Like, you know, I don't like that type of body. I find it really unattractive, you know. So he's somebody that I kind of, and also comes from wrestling, and so I kind of avoided it really. And then over the last few years, like, just his warmth, his personal warmth has won me over. Like, I really like him now, you know. And I've always liked Statham for different reasons, the ordinariness and so on. So I like seeing them, and I like those star turns, you know. And actually, this kind of type of cinema is in a certain way showcasing those star turns, and part of the way that you evaluate them is to the extent to which they are successful. And actually, I think the Dwayne Johnson and the Statham could have been better, but they were fine.
As in better performances.
As in better written, you know. I thought their performances were fine, and actually so much better than Idris Elba, right? Who I think looks gorgeous, but he's just so bad, right? Like, he doesn't land anything, he doesn't connote anything. It's like all the special effects are doing his performance for him. You know, admittedly, you know, it's not a great role, but a better actor would have done a lot more with that, you know.
I think you might be right, though I did think that he made sense in this context. Like, he did feel, you know, I didn't hate him. You know, I mean, we've both had problems with him before about him really just not being a star. That's never come across to us in his films, and we've seen a few now where he's
yeah. Well, he was less bad than in the last one. The
what was the last one we saw him in?
Oh God, that was the one where they're traveling through, you know,
The Dark Tower.
The Dark Tower, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we also saw him in that Aaron. The one with the redhead woman. I can't remember anyone's name. He played the lawyer character who was looking after what's the name? The bloke who won the Oscar for writing The Social Network, Aaron.
Oh, I know who you mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he.
Oh, that's right. He with.
We're getting there.
Oh God, what's her name? I love
Jessica Chastain.
Jessica Chastain. I love her.
He played like her lawyer in that
That's
one.
right, and he wasn't very good there either.
He wasn't great in that.
You know.
Anyway, this kind of he makes the most sense here. You know, basically, and you know, I mean, his name is fucking Brixton. Jesus, how much more obvious can you get?
I mean,
but I think simply what you're saying about the difference in how much The Rock clearly puts work into his body, and how Jason Statham is much more represents kind of ordinariness.
Yes.
Because that opening sequence where you see the two of them doing their kind of breakfast and wake up routines,
yes,
side by side, is about that. You know, like you've got The Rock on the one half of the screen, Jason Statham on the other, and they wake up differently, and they drive different cars, and they do different things.
And the Statham is all about Britishness.
The Statham
about a particular kind of Britishness.
So there's this thing about you know, you see The Rock drinking like half a dozen raw eggs.
Yes.
And what's Jason Statham doing with his eggs? Is frying them.
Yeah. Well, no, he makes an omelette.
Yeah.
You know, and then he puts like herbs and salt, rock salt. Right? Like, yeah, so it's like this elegant. I mean, and that's what I like about him, because he always connotes a certain kind of elegance. And actually, that elegance is not attributed to the upper classes. It's attributed to a working class person, and I love that. Right, you know, so the thing about Jason Statham is he reconciles these opposites. On the one hand, he's working class. On the other hand, he's elegant living as well, and he knows how to combine the two.
Yeah, he's done well for himself.
Yes, that's right.
But it does have that thing of like, if you're going to make an omelette, make it right.
That's right.
Sort of.
That's right.
You know, and then the Rock goes off and starts lifting weights.
Yes.
And Jason Statham's in the pub, pulling himself apart.
That's right. Yeah, so
it has a lot of charm. It has, you know,
I thought so.
Their two relationship has charm.
I thought so, and I really liked the bit in prison with Helen Mirren as the mom.
Yes.
And I really like Vanessa Kirby actually as the sister, and I like her as an action heroine. I mean, I think she brings life, you know, again to what could be a very stock character. So
yeah,
I think.
And the kind of mediation between the two of them who are at odds. It doesn't always work. I don't think they have the greatest relationship, the three of them. But there is charm.
It's hit and miss, but it is. I think it's a charming film. Well, I think it's a film that has moments of charm. On the other hand, you know, I just can't be bothered with all these car chases. I mean, I know that this is what the franchise is about, right? I don't think they're particularly well done. I didn't find them exciting. I didn't find them thrilling. Right, like, kind of, you know, they took up a lot of space, and I don't think that they delivered enough. I mean, maybe if I was a Motorhead, I might feel differently about it. You know, that I don't know, and I can't say.
I must say that they worked on me better than I thought, because I was really expecting to just find this all so macho and muscly and annoying.
It was pretty much.
It has a lot of that. I mean, you're talking about the Rock's body. You know, it's really selling the Rock's body, and it has some.
But also all those dick jokes.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I mean,
and a lot of that really didn't work on me. But when it came to the action, I started to get. I think there's some really nicely orchestrated action. Some of it's quite creative. The thing where Hobbs and Shaw each pick a door to go through, and one of them's only got one guy who he beats easily, and on the other hand, Jason Statham's got to beat up about 15 guys.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's not about the fighting is kind of fun and how easily he goes through them, but it's about the relationship, and it's Hobbs looking back at him and going, oh, I'm not, you know, I'm tired.
I think the fighting is better than usual, and I credit the director because, you know, David Deitch is the guy who did David Leitch.
Yeah, he did Deadpool 2, but he worked with Chad Stahelski on the
John Wick. And then also that film with Charlize Theron that I like. Atomic Blonde. I really, you know, every time I've seen John Wick or Atomic Blonde on TV, I just stop to look at it. It's really trash. You know, nobody can make claims about them being great films. But actually there's something kind of charming, and they set a mood. And I think the action in those films are kind of, is very, very good. Right? So, you know, and actually it might be a credit to him that I like the action scenes in this. I mean, I don't think they're like great, but I think they're very good. They worked on me anyway. It's just the chase scenes I couldn't stomach really. I mean, I found them boring. You know, I thought kind of just fucking shoot the helicopter, like get it over with, really. You know? I mean, it was so banal, this building of one truck on top of another truck. I mean...
Oh, no, I like that, you know.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, when they were connecting all the trucks together to keep the helicopter down.
Ugh.
No, I like that a lot. I think it was quite funny, but it was also about the teamwork thing. This is where they go to Samoa, right? Which I wasn't expecting at all. I did not know this was part of the film. This wasn't something that was in the trailer. Very nicely kept hidden secret. They go to Luke Hobbs' home in Samoa. He sees his family again that he, quote unquote, abandoned a long time ago. You get the backstory on that, but he didn't. You know, the idea is that he didn't really want to, and he does love his family. And that again is where an awful lot of charm, you know, comes infused into the film. And I think it's a real credit to the film, and it's a real credit to to Dwayne Johnson for clearly it's his interest. He's the reason they're going to Samoa.
Yes,
and I think it's great. And the best joke in the film is the one where the family is not keen on seeing The Rock again, apart from the mum, who's like your mum wielding a slipper, and she says. "Oh, I'm so happy my boy's back, but look at you, all skin and bones."
That was great. That was the best joke.
Just like all those mums do, and an awful lot of charm comes back into the film, and I think some real emotional kind of moment.
I didn't find anything.
Reconnect with the family. So you walked out right at the very end where he properly reconnects with his family.
I walked out when the credits came on. So
everyone
I hate
knows.
that. Well, I don't think everyone knows. I mean, aside from the Marvel comics, when the credits come up, the film is over.
It was literally still showing you bits of film.
Anyway, so what happened?
It was still so at the end, you get the reconnections of the families, because you've got Jason Statham and his mum, and she said right at the start, "I wish I could see you sitting here with your sister." That's what you see.
Yes.
They reconnect, and then he gives her a cake with a file in it so she can break out of prison. And on the other hand, you got The Rock takes his daughter to meet his mum and says, "This is your granddaughter," and it's I don't remember if there was a joke in it or anything, but it was really, really lovely, genuinely so.
Okay.
Even though you see every single cog turning, he's got a daughter. We love the dad. The mum's not around for whatever reason. He doesn't connect with his family. Every single cog. It's very, very obvious, but it worked very nicely.
Oh, you're such a schmaltz.
I liked it.
I'm glad you liked it.
I liked it. It was very nice.
Okay.
All of that stuff in, because I think the other thing that kind of struck me, which I don't know how, it's tough to tell how sort of deliberate this was sort of thematically, but what Brixton's thing is, the villain, is his body's being kind of converted into a machine basically. He's being augmented, and he's got a magical eye that can tell how hard a punch is going to be, all that sort of stuff. He's a robot basically, and it's all about how humans need to evolve. Yeah, that's his thing. That's my Idris Elba voice.
Yes.
Humans need to evolve onto the next level. And there's this thing about the guns. You can't fire the guns that his army has without the activation code.
Yes.
And so what they do when they go to Samoa, because they have no guns there, they have old Samoan weapons, sticks and spears, is they deactivate all the guns. So you've got this thing of like they're forced to fight, at least initially, until they bring a helicopter in, with primitive weapons, and there's this thing about like, if everyone's supposed to be moving on to the next level, if we're all supposed to be evolving, it's actually deliberately kind of atavistic the way they fight at first. The way they make them
I'm not sure I like that. I mean, so on the one hand, I welcome, the film values intelligence, right? All of the characters in the film are intelligent, and they're really highly skilled, right? They could all use computers and do code, and but on the other hand, I thought the message of the film at the end, where, it's like, forget machines, it's all about the human heart or whatever. I thought, well, they're not contradictory, right? Like, you can have kind of a human heart, and you can kind of, upskill, right? Like, kind of. So I hated the last.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's vocalised and actually put into dialogue in Hobbs and Shaw's mouths is really stupid.
Yeah,
and
it's
lame.
stupid.
And actually, I think the film has done a better job of giving you that message, or kind of conveying what it's doing through the action. Like I say, so the thing that you didn't like about all the cars linking together to keep the helicopter down with enough weight, that's teamwork.
Yeah.
And so one car after another, and we make a huge chain.
Teamwork and kind of family working together.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's what all the Samoa thing is about. You get the impression that every single one of these people is related. They're huge extended families. What it feels like.
Yeah, that is.
And that's
but you see, what I didn't like about that is, so then there's a moment where all the cars overturn, and they all burst into flames, and you think, oh well, there's the family dead, and there's no payoff, there's no emotion about it, or there's no lot. Yeah.
I don't remember which bit that is.
Well, after they all link up.
Yeah,
there's a moment in which the helicopter overturns all of them. One of them bursts into flames, and then the rest burst into flames. So actually, the cars that had been linking up overturn, burst into flames, and actually that's,
Oh, well.
So, and there's no.
That's a shame.
Yes, and like there's no reference to it at all, right?
Yeah.
So I think that there's a lot of ideas that are there, but they're just not worked through really, and they're dropped. And you pointed out, how some of those scenes begin at night and cut, and it's all of a sudden daytime, right, with no continuity at all, right, because the Kirby character is still counting down. I think from 30 minutes, she begins at 30 minutes in complete darkness, and then she's at like 26 minutes or something, and now it's completely light, right?
21 minutes or something. Yeah, and
it's like pretty poor.
It was just bizarre. I didn't get it. Like you think there's got to be a decision, the decision was
or a mistake.
Well, how can you make such a mistake? Like that's my point. Like you have to be so absurdly incompetent to go. What time did we film the first bit of this? Anyway, it's noon now. We may as well get on with it.
Yeah. Well, maybe they thought, we'll film it at night, and then they thought this is going to be too costly or something.
Who knows,
or maybe they had to do a retake and thought, oh well, it's too costly to film it in the daytime, and we'll film it at night or something.
Very weird, though.
But it was like a huge continuity error, really.
Yeah.
So anyway, so overall, what did you think? Would you recommend? Will you go see the sequel that is inevitable?
No, not unless you make me.
I might make you.
Well, but I suppose the word I'd use for it, which is apropos considering what happens in the final fight scene, is it's disarming.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with that? I mean, you spent a couple of hours.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what I'm saying. Like it's disarming. I expected to take against it a lot more than I did, and there are still things that I dislike. I dislike all the banter stuff. I think it's very badly written, and I didn't like how much the audience was laughing at it because they've clearly got no standards, and it's exactly what they came for.
The audience loved it.
Didn't like being in that audience.
Yeah.
The
audience. We must say that actually, the audience responded to almost everything.
Yeah.
So
depressingly so.
Depressingly so. I mean, it did make me think, and I was thinking this when watching the film, that film criticism has failed in its duty. Really, that if this is what people are responding to, and responding in this way, then like film criticism has failed. And I also thought, my other thought was, we've been watching films on Mubi for the last 3 days, and they're really like. The films that have done the festival circuit, or that have received great reviews, or that kind of are important worldwide in the internationally in the art cinema scene for whatever reasons, and I was just thinking how the 3 films that we've seen on Mubi, which have been variable, nonetheless I feel fed by them. That kind of I really enjoyed watching them, and they give you things to think about and talk about and discuss, and they feel like and this really is like candy floss, or something like, and it's not even good candy floss. It's the kind of candy floss that you get at a cheap carnival, and that kind of sticks in your back teeth and makes you ill.
Yeah, films like this, you kind of end up talking around them because you talk about what they mean societally and how people respond to them, and when it comes to content, you want to dig and kind of look at things, but there's not an awful lot in there, really.
Yes, I mean, I think it's true to say that the films on Mubi that we've been seeing are made by artists, and these are really just hack works for the paycheck, really. I think people might be trying to do their best, but you don't feel
there's good craft in there. I think.
Well, not even.
No, I think there is good craft.
Oh, come on, like that day for night thing that we're just talking about. That's
well, yeah. I mean, there's also some bad craft.
Yes,
but I think the way that some of those fight scenes are put together in the chases, I do think works well. I think there is some novelty in them, some creativity. It's not devoid of that. It's not devoid of beauty either. There are some shots that are very nice, which I didn't expect to like the look of it as much as I did. But overall, I can absolutely agree that it's not made by artists in the same way that those films that we've watched on Mubi are.
Yeah.
They're made by craftspeople.
Well, and not all of them. I mean, there was a time in Hollywood where you thought like the studios really bought in the very best people in the world, right? Like the best composers, right? And the best lighting people, the best design people, and the best artists, right? Like all the greats worked in Hollywood, like the real geniuses in their area. I don't feel that this film is one that has you know, brought in the greatest artists and like painting and music of the moment, you know, and applied them to, you know, making this movie. I don't think that at all.
No, it feels like a very, very expensively made cheap film.
Mm.
You know?
That's a very good way of putting it.
Thank you.
A very, very expensive, cheap film is what it is. But not without its pleasures.
Not without its pleasures. And, you know, I did not hate it. And that is high praise.
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is, I imagine, even though there would be soul deadening, I would probably not hate the rest of the Fast and Furious films. I do like car chases. I know that's what they're supposed to be good at and all the rest. You know, I know that they're bad for society and they'll kill bits of my brain.
I just hate Vin Diesel. I don't see the appeal of him at all, really. And Paul Walker was very cute, but also he was a blank. You know, and I'm not that shallow, really. Like, you know, there wasn't enough for me to engage with, really. So, yeah, I thought I saw two of them, and that was enough time, really. Well, and actually, to be fair, I saw the third. I did half see Fast and Furious 8 last night, so I thought that was enough of my time to this particular franchise. I don't want to give it anymore. I'm actually not at all curious to see what 4, 5, 6, 7 or whatever are like.
I'm not that curious either. Why are we watching Fast and Furious 8 when I explicitly told you to watch that ContraPoints video that I sent you a link for?
I don't know.
Well, it's really
sometimes,
good.
You know, my mind goes. That wasn't a deliberate choice not to see it or anything. I just didn't think about it. But anyway, so...
yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah. I wish people wouldn't celebrate junk so much. I do think, actually, that there's something about the barrage of publicity that people get suckered into. You know, I mean, I think, you know, this is trash. It kind of charmed me, but also there's a million things better to see at the moment, you know. On Mubi.
At the cinema.
Not at the cinema,
Slim
unfortunately.
know.
Yeah, slim pickings at the cinema, which is something that maybe distributors should think about.
We haven't dipped our toe into the liking. Yeah, but the thing, you know, you say that about distributors, but this is making all the money. You know, it's gonna.
Well, but I'm never quite sure about that. You know, you always think like there's all these cinemas around, and actually, is it true that they're making more money than they would if they variated their programming a little bit more, right? If they varied it and if they were more intelligent and if they put some work into building audiences. I mean, I think the things that I resent most are, you know, when cinemas like the Electric or the Mockingbird or the Midlands Arts Centre are programming films like, you know, like this one, right? I think they could be doing much better programming something else. You know, on the other hand, you think, well, like, maybe there are reasons for this that I don't know about. I mean, you know, like, they're professionals, they know their job, they must have tested different things.
I imagine there are all sorts of contractual obligations with studios between, you know, I mean, studios and cinema. I mean, we spoke to
David Baldwin.
David Baldwin, who talked about that with the Mac. I imagine it's even more so in the case of the big chains.
That's right. So he explained,
to
you know, those
screens.
Difficulties. Yeah.
But I mean, you do.
That was illuminating, actually.
It's true that you do look at Cineworld, which has got Cineworld Broad Street's got 10 screens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cineworld.
10.
I think
10 or 11. Actually, it might be 12. Anyway,
I think
got
it's 12.
Got a bunch of
12.
screens. And you know, you look at the film we saw today, which was on the IMAX digital screen, which is the one-off screen. And there were how many people in the cinema? 15,
not many.
You know, because the thing is, the cinemas, the screens are so huge, the cinemas are so huge in terms of number of seats that they never fill them. Like, the reason that there are so many seats is because for the occasional time when Star Wars comes out and they're going to fill every single seat, which happens occasionally, but most of the time they're not. And you know, it makes you wonder if there are these times when you could use one screen once a day to program something else.
Or actually, just use one screen to program 4 art films a day or something.
Yeah.
You know, and vary the programming. You know, and actually the whole point about having 12 screens is that it would allow you flexibility. So let's say you program 5 art films in Cinema 12, right? If one takes off, then you could give it its own slot to program for a whole week on its own in Cinema 11 or something, right? Like, the thing is that this has become too centralized. So you have a formula. I'm not even sure. You do have a manager of Cineworld, Birmingham, Broad Street, because I've talked to him. But he's not a manager who has any influence over the program itself, over what he's showing, right? That's all done centrally, and actually, I think everything in our culture is overly centralized, really, and that's one of its problems. But I do think unless, distributors learn how to build audiences, they're going to lose it completely. I already think that cinema is no longer a popular art form. I do think that it is a kind of a middle-class art form. I mean, I think cinema is too expensive now. Most people don't go to it, or they go to it once a year or something, right? So, but I think unless the programming becomes more imaginative, even that aspect is going to be lost.
It's going to go the way of the dodo.
Yes.
And the people will only see it in zoos.
Or museums. Yeah. So anyway, so I was charmed by it, but it's a piece of junk. I would say
pretty much the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. So I'd be curious to know what our listeners felt. So kind of please do feel free to get in touch. We are eavesdropping at the movies, and we are on
iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. Leave comments on them and ratings and that. I don't know if you can leave comments on iTunes, but anyway. On social media, we're on Facebook and Twitter at Eavesdrop Movies. Our email address, not that it's ever been used, is eavesdropping at the movies.
Nobody has written us.
Eavesdropping at the movies at gmail.com. And the website is eavesdroppingatthemovies.com.
C'est bien. Merci.
Bye bye.